Hello and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, editor-in-chief, and today I have a great group of guys that I've had the opportunity to work with, but I also have some new ones that I haven't had the opportunity to interview, so I'm super excited for this conversation. Today we are talking about how collaboration between specialized home service and restoration businesses lead to a stronger and consistent customer experience, especially during those bigger projects that we know happen in said seasons, fire, flooding season, and even hurricane season. So if you haven't guessed it, I have a few special guests from all over the map, if you will. My first guest is Terry Oliver. He is the franchise business coach for the Patch Boys. Steve Wiles is president for Redbox Plus Dumpsters. Jeff Pace is the franchisee's business coach for Enhanced Brands. Michael Case is the director of operations for Blue Kangaroo Packouts, and Tim Singh Nissan is the director of operations for 1-800 Water Damage. Please welcome these lovely gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Kayla.
having
Thanks for having
me.
us.
Yeah, thanks, Caleb.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm super excited to talk about this because one of the things that I'm most passionate about is how our industry touches other service areas of what we do every single day, right? And how important those relationships are. You guys have the opportunity to work so closely with one another, which is really cool because I'm sure that your network is a lot different than what people think about, right? And that's what this is all about, to kind of talk about how far you guys reach, the impact you have, and why you guys have been so successful. So my first question is kind of one that segues into this bigger conversation. It's, when we have these big property damage projects that involve multiple moving parts, let's be real, it's not just one company coming in and doing the job. What are some of the biggest challenges in delivering a consistent experience from start to finish? I'm going to send this one over to Steven because I think he can really weigh in, and then the rest of the team will have their final thoughts as well. So, Steven, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first off, thanks again for having us. I think that what misses in the total restoration industry is the service side for the people that are supporting restoration companies. And one of the things that our brand does, Redbox Plus Dumpsters, is that we're kind of a one step out from most other dumpster companies. Services is the first thing that we focus on. We offer a two-in-one solution with porta potties and a dumpster in the one. So we're able to kill two birds with one stone. And with that, we're able to pick up and drop off as needed. Restoration moves very fast. It's not a slow process. So we once the project starts, everything has to fall into place very quickly. All driven by most cases timing. What happens, how to get it done as quickly as possible, efficiently and safely. So service is key for us, and I think most of our franchise group brands is top of mind. What we need to do, how we need to get it done, and how we need to communicate with that customer.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I would definitely say, to your point, we move really fast in the restoration space. So being able to lean on the people that we trust the most, in your guys' case, your network, right? You're able to not affect the customer in a negative way, right? I think a lot of times we hear during projects that customers unfortunately get impacted, but with you guys being such a well-oiled machine, the customer doesn't really notice that there's a different change in hands of the project, which I think is really, really cool. Yeah, they may notice the logos, but you guys all have the same core values and the integrity and just the communication, which I think makes a really big impact. And that makes the moving parts, if you will, so much more smooth. I know last time I had some of you guys on, we talked about just the communication and the teamwork. Everything else falls into place, and this is really no different. So with that
And
being,
I
go
was just
ahead,
going to
Tim.
I was just going to add to that too. And the communication between all the partners. I mean, as far as the dumpster from Redbox and the restoration side on my side, and the pack out from Mike's side, and I mean the communication between all parties has to be very consistent. Setting the expectation with the homeowners up front will definitely cause a lot. I mean, some of the issues to go away. So, in my opinion, definitely communication is the key for regardless what project you're working on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Very well said. Gentlemen, do you guys have anything else to add?
Well, I think we talk about some of those challenges out there, right? And as Tim said, if communication breaks down, then the whole project can fall apart very quickly. But I think one of the other challenges that we see out there in these large projects is we have to rely on each other. We have to rely on a schedule. We have to rely on, in many cases in the contents world, everybody's relying on me, right? Tim's group is going to come in and do mitigation, but everything stops until I get the product out. And if my team doesn't get the product out of the way, you're not going to bring in the painters or the HVAC guys or the structure guys. So, we rely on and we're dependent upon each other. And when that dependency, when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do on the schedule they're supposed to, or doesn't communicate it in the right way, everything can fall apart on that job.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And I think to your point, it just takes one broken link to affect everybody. And so everybody has to be on their A game all the time, all day, every day. And with you guys having such a great team, you're not really worried about that. And honestly, if you had some hiccup, you guys would communicate it to Tim's point, right? Like your guys' communication is what really sets you guys up for success. Yes, you have the tools and the people and the means, but communication is such a big part of what we do every single day. If the communication breaks out down, nothing else honestly matters because then it's a snowball effect at that point, right?
Right, right.
Um, so
Yeah,
the next, go
absolutely.
ahead.
So, I mean, the message has to be consistent, I mean, amongst all parties, right? So, I mean, to gain the customer's trust, for them to feel comfortable that the project is going smoothly. So, your message to the customer between all parties has to be consistent.
100%. So this kind of brings me to the next pillar, if you will, of this whole, having multiple hands in the pot and using all the resources that you have and just why collaboration is so important. So why has collaboration between these specialized home service businesses become more important as customer expectations continue to rise? And let's be real, today, consumers know a lot more than what they knew in the past. It's very interesting to kind of see it. They still don't know everything, but they're starting to, use Google, use AI, and so they're becoming more aware. So, Terry, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think about it in two different ways. We're a company that goes right to residential. We don't do any commercial. So the customers, they find us on Google or we're referred from different businesses, and it's very important to have a good reputation out there. We do things like we want to make sure we're there on time. When we set up the job, we make sure we set it up correctly. So the house is taken care of, the possessions, people, they feel comfortable with it. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable with us. We do the job right. And when we're done, we'll clean it up. And when we leave, your house will look, like it did when we walked in. And that communication between, the different companies, it's very, very important. But again, you need to do good work. You need to build your reputation. And a lot of our, jobs come from referrals and from Google and that. So it's very important to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I would definitely say to your point, you have to do your job right. And then in collaborative efforts, you're bringing in people who also do the job right. So the customer awareness and expectations are not affected in a negative light, right? I know with all of you guys have a seamless relationship, right? And so when you're handing things off, they're still getting the same type of care, the same type of communication. And then you're leaving their home or business, which in your case, you mentioned no commercial. So
Right.
they're home. And it's like, yeah, you fixed what was going on, but it's not like they notice something and say, "Oh my gosh, they ripped my carpet apart or they left a hole in my wall," or whatever the case may be, right? So everybody plays a role, and the collaboration is no different from all of you guys on this call. If you're handing something off, there is a clean handoff, and the customer never notices it, and that's where those expectations are so important because I think customers assume the worst when they know that they're having, five, six different companies coming into their home. And so to be able to just have that seamless peace of mind, if you will, that's where you guys and your guys' communication and collaboration make a huge difference. Any other thoughts from you gentlemen on, the collaboration between all of you guys on this call?
I
Can I
think,
add
oh,
one other thing? I mean, we live by reviews. So when we're done, we want to make sure we get that 5-star review. So that's our reputation. So this is very important to us.
100%.
and I think it's also about like the core value of the taking care of the customer is really at the heart of everything we do, right? And by all of the different contractors around the job is if everybody has that core value, even if we run into issues and things take a little bit longer, as long as that communication is still in play and that the core value of making sure that that customer is taken care of to the best of our ability is key throughout all the contractors.
From our standpoint too, they're almost like family. We want to build their trust, and once we have our trust, it's amazing how many referrals we get.
Yeah,
Well, I would like to just add to that too. You said family, right? And at the end of the day, our families face these types of losses, whether they're catastrophic or, simply a faulty water heater or whatever the case may be. And you would want them to be treated with the same way you treat your customers, right? And so at the end of the day, that's somebody's mom, sister, brother, uncle, whatever the case may be. And we know families refer families all the time. Right. And so, what
Yes.
better way to really just lead with compassion and care, not only, to have revenue, but also just to take care of the people in your community, right? At the end of the day, you guys are generally serving the people in your community. I know you guys go off to bigger jobs, but you are likely going to pass them in the grocery store, or maybe your kids or grandkids have events with them. So you want to leave a lasting impression, but also it's just, how much you care and what type of person you are at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'd like to add one more thing that may be overlooked, but the handoff in many cases, and I realize some of our people are less B2B, but from 1-800 water damage to red box to pack outs to enhance to patch boys to everybody, there's actually a story behind that. It's just not in front of it. Typically, our franchisees know each other. They serve the same market. They work together. So when Tim's leaving and Michael's coming in, there's a conversation that's not what are you doing? It's what's the family doing? How are the kids been? Because we're working together. We're pretty unique that we're service brand franchisors. So we work with service brands only. And if you look at all the service or the brands that we have, they kind of fit in together. We I don't know if I could say 100% of the time we can complete the project with all of us, but pretty close. We've got the technology and the ability to do it. So whether it's enhanced or everybody, typically our franchisees know each other, which says a lot because we're all working for that same goal of customer satisfaction, doing it right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great point too, because I would definitely say because of the relationships and the network that you guys have, it's not foreign, right? I know you guys do on a bigger level. You guys have opportunities for networking in all of your service areas. I just had the opportunity to speak with another one of your young ladies, and she mentioned some of the cool stuff that you guys do to make sure that your networks are connected. And even when the new franchisees are coming on, there's some opportunities for connection. So, you guys do a really good job with making sure that you guys are all sound no matter what branch of the business you're in and what your specialty is, if you will. So with that being said, you guys have your own partnerships internally. I know you have partnerships externally. So, how do strong partnerships between these complementary businesses help protect trust with the homeowners and the insurers when there's these complex restoration or repair jobs? And I say that to say it's not an easy question to answer. I know, Michael, you're going to have a great answer. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on this with all these moving parts in this question?
Well, I will say, when you talk about homeowner or business owner trust, it's a very fragile thing. And I used to have a boss that would say it's a quick trip from the penthouse to the outhouse, and we've all been there, right? So to maintain that trust, but having a consistent message, like Tim talked about earlier, amongst all of the players in here, all of the different trades or the vendors, is critical. When we have good partners, it reduces the finger pointing, right? We all work together. We're not blaming each other. We're working for a common goal and working on a common solution. Working with good partners, the schedule integrity is maintained. I know what Tim's doing, and Tim knows when I'm going to be there, and I know when Jeff's crew is going to come in and when I need to be out of there. And then finally, I would say that having consistent partners or good partners across the board, you're all singing out of the same hymnal. You're using the same platforms. You're having the same documentation, which our insurers appreciate, right? They're dealing with one consistent message coming to them as well. So there's a lot of benefits in having this collaboration between all the partners.
And
Yeah.
with what Mike just said, I mean that'll reduce a lot of errors throughout the whole entire project, right? I mean, the communication amongst all parties. I mean, and I mean, obviously, you definitely will make the homeowner feel more comfortable with the team that is there, because I mean, obviously, there's the project is very seamless because there's no hiccups because the communication amongst all parties is so that I mean, and everything stems back to communication between us and the homeowners,
Mm-hmm.
and setting the expectations up front so there wouldn't be any issues at the end.
Yeah, really well said. And I will definitely say communication is one of those things that reminds you we know it has to happen, right? And that's sometimes it falls on the wayside in general, depending on, what's going on. And I really am so thankful that we're stressing the importance of, communication and handing off and even the software side of things that we use, because I oftentimes feel like it seems like an obstacle when actually it's a strength if you leverage it correctly, just like communication, just like safety, right? They're all cornerstones of what we do. And to build those strong partnerships, communication is key, period. I mean, if you don't have a great communication line, what are you doing, right? If it doesn't work, that's why. So great, great feedback from both of you guys. Anyone else want to weigh in on that part of building partnerships? Perfect. So, in what ways do these types of partnerships create long-term value beyond a single job? We know that sometimes it may feel like we're in a single job only and that's it, but that's not really the case. So, for both for the businesses and our customers, what does that look like in the long-term aspect? Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, having somebody that you can call to take care of a problem, right? You know what they can do. You have this issue, and you know exactly the person that can call to take care of it, and take care of it in a timely manner that is also gonna help build that trust with that customer. They're gonna communicate with them. Like I think they number one word we've said today is communication, right? Like it's all about that, and so you allows you to close more jobs and do more work and just take care of people better.
When I would say too, kind of to your point again, circling back to communication, totally was not the theme of this, but it does play a really big role in everything that we're talking about. We know that if a customer has a really great experience with you, even if they have something that doesn't necessarily relate to you, they're going to call you, right?
Yeah.
And so the cool thing about that is, hey, I can't help you, but I do know somebody who can, right? And let's be real, that does happen pretty frequently, right? And this industry, like you guys all have said, rely on referrals, reviews, and this is a great way to have that regular stream of referral, right? They're going to call you and say, hey Jeff, I need some help. I had water damage and I think I might have a little bit of mold on my content. And you're like, hey, I know who I can call, right? And so it just makes it a seamless handoff. But not only that, the customer has no idea that it's somebody completely separate. Just know they know that you're taking care of them, right? And so that's really important for both the business and the customer side of things. Gentlemen, anything else thought-wise on that?
I'll say one thing. We're starting to do a lot of referrals to other companies, and then they refer us back on social media. And it's really paid off in a lot of our larger markets because we're connected. And if we help each other, it really drives, loyalty and sales for us.
That's a great point to really bring up. Social media is one of those things that is never going away. It's always going to be there. And I think customers are leveraging it a little bit more, just like AI. And so that means that our businesses are leveraging it just as much too. And that is so cool to see because it's like, hey, we have this partnership. We support the community as a whole. And at the end of the day, it helps your business too. But the most important thing is we're impacting people's lives for the good, right? We're in this service industry because we love to help people. So it's really cool to see how it all works out together. So with all of this being said, I know we've touched quite a bit. Communication has been a theme. For owners looking to build a reliable referral relationship or partnership, what qualities are the most important when we're deciding on which partners to align with? Tim, I know you are no stranger to this. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, reputation is definitely a key, right? Obviously, there's a lot of resources there out there that you can check their reputation, such as Google, Yelp, and all that stuff, right? So you definitely want the 5 star, 4.9 a star rating, right? Which 800 water damage has that. So, and also, I mean, when homeowners are seeking for contractors, obviously, you want to make sure they're communicating with you clearly. Obviously, be transparent throughout the whole entire project, right? So, I mean, there are different ways that, I mean, as far as selecting contractors, but to me, first thing that comes to my mind is obviously you definitely want to, I mean, check the reputation and within their reviews and stuff like that. See what other people are saying about that company before you select them. I mean, doing mitigation work, sometimes you don't have that luxury because it's something immediate that needs to happen right now. But as far as long-term project, right? I mean, honestly, you definitely want to check the reputation. So,
Great answer. I also think we've talked a lot about reputation and your reviews, right?
mhm.
Their review reflects your work too, even
Yep.
if you guys aren't directly in business, let's say together, right? A customer is going to have these people coming into their home or business, and they're going to look up and see, like, okay, who is this? It's just like when we go and select food. You're not going to go eat somewhere that's less than probably a 4.5 or 4.8, right? Like we have expectations as customers. So, to your point, vetting them and making sure that they're aligned with your core values and your mission is extremely important. And we know that there's some instances where it's emergency, can't really, do that. But I definitely would say word of mouth is also another thing, right? You can phone a friend and say, hey, do you know about this group or whatever the case may be? And let's be real, all of you guys are 100% connected, but I know you guys have partnerships outside of your guys' umbrella. And so it's no different, right? And that's kind of really what I want to echo. Your approach is the same whether it's in your network or outside of your network, right? And that's really what keeps our customer service at that white glove level, if you will, right?
Oh yeah, it's that customer first mindset, right? And that's what I think Stephen started talking about at the very beginning is when you put the customer first and drive to that white glove service, it's only successful.
I think too, to add to all this is we have an emotion side in most restoration projects that we don't have in normal projects. So if I want to redo my cabinets tomorrow, I'm going to call Jeff up and say, hey, Jeff, give me a quote. What's your process? How does it work? Well, if your home just was damaged by fire, flood, whatever, you're not thinking that way. So there's a huge emotional impact that's affecting the customer's decision. And so that guidance really needs to come from professionals of where they are. And we're falling right back to the referrals, to the who do you know? I mean, it's so much deeper because it's a totally different experience. People are living through something that you hope they never have lived through before and that they'll never have to live through again.
Yeah, really well said. And I will definitely say to your point, if somebody calls Jeff and he does a really great job and then there's a problem, they're calling him, right? And now it's working, the whole network is working with each other. And it's really interesting to kind of hear that because I think sometimes we don't, it's not we as professionals, but just sometimes in general, people don't really understand how that ecosystem works, right? Let's say somebody comes in and cleans carpets, right? If somebody has a flood and they know that they have somebody that's come in and cleaned their carpets, they're probably going to call them, even though it's not the right person, right? Oh, I see them on a regular basis. I have a relationship. They check on my family, right? Same thing with any of you guys on the call. I'm sure you guys have repeat customers. I know that sounds crazy, maybe somebody who's new to the industry, but it does happen. And we know that a lot of you guys are in regions that see a lot of weather events, right? I know some of you guys are in Michigan, and so that means freezing season, burst pipes. I know that there's been a lot of rain recently. So, leaning on everybody, building these types of relationships those are so important, especially in times that are larger scale, right? We didn't really dive into the large scale side of things. I know we will talk about that in a future episode, but for you guys, before we kind of wrap it up, it's really great to see all of you guys and what you represent in our industry. When people look at the restoration industry who don't really understand who we are, they think we fix everything for them, right? It's one company coming in to fix their whole problem. But in reality, look at all of you gentlemen, five of you representing different aspects of what we do every single day. It's really cool to see that. And just one last question that I have for you guys, and anybody can jump in and answer this is, you know, in this industry, we have an emotional side, as you guys mentioned, right? I, because of your network, I just would really like to know on the emotional side of things, do you guys do like a decompress after these large, events? And the only reason why I ask that is because sometimes emotion is oftentimes left out of the conversation, but we're all human at the end of the day. And because all of you guys are here, I think it'd be really cool to kind of hear, the emotional side of things. And they're all different for everybody, right, on this call. And, maybe I'll toss this one up to Jeff at first because I think people looking from the outside in won't really understand essentially how much of a role you do play in, let's say, a bigger job. So, Jeff, if you want to answer that first, and then I'll kind of go on to Terry and the other guys. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so for us, we're not doing too much of the major. We're not in there right when the disaster's happening. We're most more further down the line for the cabinets and stuff like that. But I have had like customers just crying because they've hated their kitchen for so many years, and it's just an emotional attachment. And it's so and giving them that new kitchen in just 3 to 4 days, and they're able to get back to what they've always wanted for 20, 30 years, but they just weren't able to do. And it's just, I mean, just that is just fantastic. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And the reason why I tossed that up to you, honestly, is because I don't think that that's sometimes talked about in the space, right? Or really, discussed. And so that's why I'm so happy to have you guys all on here because there's an emotional side for everything that we do. It's just different, right? So, Terry, what are your thoughts on that? You are going into people's homes. So, what does that look like for you guys?
Well, for us, I'll take flood cuts. Okay, we're going after, they're set up for us to do the drywall, and we go in, and the customers, they went through a little bit of trauma, and we just want to make them feel better. And we try to we do the best job we can. We come in and make sure the job's set up right. We make sure we leave, and we leave it in a five-star situation. And I can't tell you how many reviews or how many phone calls or how many conversations that we've had after thanking us and just, thank you for coming in and taking care of our home.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. You don't understand the emotion side of things from your customers until you're in there. And then for you guys all on this call, you know, you guys are able to share that. Like, wow, we not only made an impact by, taking the problem that they had and working through it and getting them back to livable conditions. We gave them that dream kitchen, or we gave them peace of mind by walking them through the entire process. So, Stephen, I'm gonna ask if you have any final thoughts on this one too, and then I'll ask, Tim and Michael. But the reason why I ask this question is I want people to really fully understand where you guys all get that emotional side of things. It's not just, hey, we come in, we do the work, and we leave, and there's no emotion, right?
Yeah, I think for us, 95% of the time we're getting rid of trash. So people are woohoo, it's finally gone, whether it's a clean out or whether it's new construction, whatever it is. But on the restoration side, we're dealing with somebody's trash that was never meant to be trash. So there's certainly emotional tie to that because we're taking away things that Michael may not be able to fix, blue kangaroo pack outs that are not salvageable. So um, it's a different, I think it's a different haul for us because it is taking memories away. So there's a huge impact on that side because we're starting new, and then all the people come in to replace, to fix, to restore. So 95% of the time it's a woohoo moment for Redbox. 5% is probably a pretty tough time for that homeowner or business or whoever we're working with.
Yeah, and I would definitely say too, I think, when we're throwing stuff away, that's the emotional attachment and things like that are really hard. And while there's relief, there's also anxiety, I think, that we see, right? Which is very interesting because I think we've all probably had our own loss. I know I have. And you don't realize what you have until it's affected, right? Like,
Well
you may
said.
pass the same thing every day. Let's say a pair of golf clubs, you may pass that every day. Well, let's say you have a fire and those are ruined, but those golf clubs were your grandpa's or your great grandpa's, and now, you have to get rid of them. So I think that there's so many different pieces of the emotional side of things that is just really interesting to dive into because at the end of the day, it does affect somebody's mental state or their not just their livelihood and their home. So Tim, thoughts on this? I know you get to
Uh,
see it on a regular basis, so
yes, well, I'm gonna take it back a little memory lane here. I mean, this is several years ago. Actually, I experienced this firsthand. I mean, we got a call. We had a fire loss, and I was the PM on a project. Went there and then inspect the project, and honestly, I mean, it was a little bit more than what we anticipated. And basically, I mean, the homeowner, I mean, lost probably about half of their house, and basically, I mean, helping them packing out stuff and identifying what to keep, what not to keep. I mean, that's one of the most challenging part of that project, and helping them find a temporary home and stuff like that, and just going back home and just like, wow, what if that was me, and just trying to realize, like, I mean, what can I do? What should I do? So it's just definitely a devastating part of that, and but I mean, it took some time, but we were able to get them back into their home, and just seeing the joy and the smile on their faces, just it was definitely good. So,
that's so interesting to hear all these stories, right? This is why I asked that question because I think it's something that we bring home with us regardless, right? It's a topic of conversation when we meet with our teams, whether it's just your, close group or your extended network, like all of you here. There is an impact, and you do talk about it, and it enhances your customer service. It enhances your partnerships and collaboration. So, Michael, thoughts on that? I know you have thoughts because, man, you deal with the delicates of people's livelihoods and you're making some tough calls. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, and you're right. And that's the kind of the neat thing about the contents world is we're the last ones back, right? Everything's fixed, but we have the opportunity now to bring back their stuff, their personal property. And it may be those golf clubs that they thought were ruined. And then all of a sudden we bring them back and they're cleaned and they're restored. And boy, the emotional component there is something. And that's what you find with all these folks up here is that we do this not just because it's a business, not just because it's an income, right, a living for us, but we do it because at the end of the day, you know, we want to help people. That's the commonality between all these businesses and these industries, is that we're doing this because we want to help people out. And when you're rewarded, I guess, when the job's done and the customer's happy and you see that tear that I never thought I'd see this again, that makes it all worthwhile.
100%. Thank you guys for answering my off the wall question. My goal there was to show everybody how important everything that you guys do it really is, right? And how you guys all rely on one another and who comes in first and who finishes last and what the customer ultimately ends up feeling at the end of the entire process. So, for those of you listening, please take these gentlemen's, insights and really look at your business because at the end of the day, we are in a service industry, which means we love to help people. I often say, yes, we restore, buildings and we restore items, but we also restore people's lives, right? We play a very big emotional role in the things that we do every single day. Well, gentlemen, that concludes all of my questions. I am so thankful that we had you guys on. We were able to talk about all of these moving parts. And I hope to see you guys on again really soon. And for all of you watching, thank you for tuning into this episode of Ask the Expert. Take care.